Guys, I am so excited about this episode.
Are you?
I forgot how much I love this movie.
Because you've been telling me all week how excited you are, and this was Katie's idea to do the episode.
Because this is my favorite movie of all time. So
It is well chosen.
It was my first time seeing the movie. And this should be interesting, too, because I don't know which version of the film you watched. Because there's a theatrical and there's an unrated version.
I saw the extended
Probably
one, which was the first time I've seen that version.
I'm most familiar with the original theatrical version that doesn't have the extended pieces, because for probably the first 10 years I watched this movie, I watched it on a VHS copy that my mom recorded off of TV. Yeah. So I know exactly. Yep, I know exactly where the commercial breaks were. I know exactly what words they substituted for the swear words. So yeah,
that's amazing.
What's the weirdest swear word substitution?
I think the goat to gasoline. I think he says goat's milk to gasoline in the movie on the TV version.
I think it kind of works still. It's still pretty gross.
Yeah. That's the one that comes up offhand. And I think there's point the prophylactics in the beginning, I think were completely cut out in the TV version. It's hard to remember because I haven't seen that version in so long, but yeah, those are the two that come to mind.
I was for a period of time kind of obsessed with the people who have to substitute words for different words.
Yeah, that's a job.
On films, because I remember when I bought the Shaun of the Dead DVD, they had a featurette where they put the TV cut for one scene on there, and it was they replaced with funk. It was just called The Funk Man.
Nice.
And he's like, you need to get a funking job or get out of the funking apartment. And there was a period of time when I was in film school, I wanted to reach out to some of these people in Hollywood and make a documentary about these people who have to censor a film, but still tell the story. They can't just bleep it. There's an art to it in itself, and I find it actually really fascinating. But now with
documentary
TV,
about that.
With TV how it is though, you can say so much more.
Yeah, TV. You can say a number of times.
Yeah, you can say once per. If you have a TV show, you can have one.
It's only once.
Yes.
In a season?
Yes. So there's an art to that as well.
When do we use our?
When do we use our? And they say it's on that 70s show.
Oh yeah. They're pretty much good to go for anything nowadays.
It's weird. When I was a kid, I feel like it was way worse of a word than ass was.
Yeah, because ass was a donkey, right? I mean, was a dog, I guess.
And everyone's got, or even if you think it was a butt, everyone's got a butt. But was an insult.
Yeah, true.
I didn't realize I was a dog until I got older. Nick's just sitting over there laughing.
This is amazing.
I guess I didn't grow up with which is the worst one, just because Mom always told me to, if someone called you a bitch, just be proud of it.
That's some great advice, actually.
Super great advice.
This is also going to be great, too, because the video version of this show, if it does happen, is censored.
Yeah.
So, oh, God.
I think we should cut it with other words, like funk and botch.
But I think
it'll be a little confusing to listen to, though, because what are you talking about being censored with what?
What I think he should do is he should go into other movies and take when they say other words
and
put it over our swear words.
That'd be so much fun.
Have you guys watched The Good Place?
Yes.
Amanda does.
No.
Their treatment of swear words is freaking incredible.
Somebody royally forked up. Somebody forked up. Why can't I say fork?
If you're trying to curse, you can't hear.
That's bullshit.
All right, I guess before we start, Nick, as always, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was reacquainted with a long-lost film love of mine here.
I got to see it for the first time, and I saw the unrated version for the first time, too, so I feel like it's funny. We're kind of burying the lead here. We haven't even officially started the show, but it's funny watching it on Amazon Prime. Since the story behind the unrated version is John Landis was allowed to, they pretty much said, hey, this movie's such a big success, let's do an unrated version. We saved all this footage. But I believe it was all the negative, and the negative always kind of has a different look to it.
Yeah, it was a little brighter.
You could see, whenever they cut to, added footage. It wasn't super jarring, but, the color, things were just a little bit, a little more yellow tinted to it. If I wouldn't have pointed out, Amanda noticed a couple shots that looked weird, but if I wouldn't have pointed out, she might not have noticed.
Yeah, I didn't know why. I thought it was just an odd coloring choice, or a bad transfer.
Like what? What was? I'm trying to think because I can't remember which version I watched, but because I've seen it so many times, it's hard for me to distinguish between the two anymore.
The first time that I really noticed it was in the church sequence, where he sees the light. They go to like a lot of the wide shots, the super wides of the whole church were clearly this like other processing that got clipped, and that's when I went, oh, you know what? I bet that's.
And sometimes I just knowing what I know about editing and how some of these things wouldn't cut together. I think it was like alternate takes sometimes too. But I noticed it early on when he like the prophylactic scene, like I feel like I noticed it first when they're like, you know, black hat, black tuxedo.
I noticed it when they were talking to the nun because just some of the lighting looked yellow.
Some of that might have been intentional.
Yeah, but no, but it looked like those scenes.
Inconsistently yellow.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I guess, you know, I asked you how you were, and we already started talking about the movie. I feel like I should read my intro. How you doing, Nick? Well, about the Blues Brothers.
You know how I am? Blues Brothers.
And and here I am trying to like make you anticipate when we finally talking about it. You're like, Blues Brothers.
Here we go.
Sip of coffee for the working man.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of our sound guy just freaked out a little bit. Sorry about that, Kyle. I should move from the mic a little bit. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Viers, and with me, as always, is the man from Calumet City that can turn goat piss into gasoline,
Nick Richards!
Oh, I was hoping I mixed two of them together.
Yeah, it was nice. It was
you
smooth.
would not shut up about Calumet City, and I had no idea the reference until I watched the movie.
Now you understand how special this movie is to me.
Exactly. Also joining us on today's episode are two very special co-hosts. First, we've got my beautiful and talented wife, Amanda, making her whopping 5th appearance on the Shameless Picture Show. I counted last night. And making her first appearance on the show is Katie Kadaver. Katie Kadaver is a longtime listener of the show, but she's also a jack of all trades. She's a makeup artist for the horror punk Rat Bat Spider. Sorry, that's kind of a complicated name to say. Rat Bat Spider, because it's all one word, so it's like Rat Bat Spider. And a long-standing Tromette. And she runs Grindhouse Tees, a burlesque troupe dedicated to body positivity and creativity. Did I miss anything on there?
No, that's a pretty good roundabout picture of who I am.
Like, you do makeup for yourself as well, but I thought I might as well give Rat Bat Spider a payday.
I always plug Rat Bat Spider any chance I get, so they owe me huge.
But yeah, like even when she came in today, on the back of her vest, she had their patch, and it's like, yep, she's repping the band.
I do. They're on my car. They're on my jacket. They're tattooed on my body. Yeah. I'm pretty devoted.
For those of you out there listening, it's not just a blind devotion. She is dating one of the members of the band too.
Yes, the lead singer.
Anything. I've got a Misfits tattoo on my arm, and I'm not dating Glenn Danzig. So
not
yet.
Like, sure, is that?
No, I feel like I feel like that would not be a good. I feel like that'd be a tumultuous relationship. He does not seem like he's a very caring lover. If you've listened to the songs, I don't feel like I could trust being alone with him.
Wow.
This is the
Hopefully
most.
he doesn't listen to us.
I hope he does.
I would be willing to try it out. Just saying.
This is the most I've made Nick laugh all season.
The safe word is shameless.
The season also
I think that's two safe words.
This is the most I've made him laugh in 3 seasons.
A safe phrase? Can we do the safe phrase?
In case, I don't know how I'm going to edit this episode yet, but on today's episode, if you weren't listening before, we're on a mission from God as we tackle Blues Brothers. Joliet Jake Blues, a musician and criminal, is released from prison on parole on account of good behavior. Waiting for him is his brother Elwood Blues. Jake just wants to get his life back together with his brother and his band, but while visiting the orphanage they grew up in, the Blues Brothers find out that this orphanage is about to close if they can't get together $5,000. The nun that runs the place wants them to help but refuses to take any stolen money. Together, on a mission from God, Jake and Elwood set out to get the old band back together, play some killer shows, raise some money, and save the orphanage that made them who they are. Directed by John Landis in 1980, the script for the film was written by Landis and one of the film stars, Dan Aykroyd, based on 2 characters from Saturday Night Live. The film was unlike many other films that came before, combining unconventional structure, over-the-top comedy, and some amazing R&B musical numbers. The film would go on to be one of the most successful films based on an SNL skit, with I think Wayne's World 1 and 2 being up there as well, and would be considered one of the greatest comedies ever made. The film stars the duo of Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi as the titular characters, and features a supporting cast of Carrie Fisher, which annoys me, she doesn't actually have a name in the movie, she's just a mysterious woman, Henry Gibson, John Candy, and Kathleen Freeman. But let's also not forget about all the amazing musicians such as James Brown, Cab Calloway, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and more.
You better get bright, pal. We got a show to do. Then we got to figure out some way to collect that gate money. Get it to the Cook County Assessor's office as soon as they open in the morning.
Joliet, Jake, and Elwood Blues. Two men with a mission, and only 11 days.
And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
Our Lady of Blessed Acceleration, don't fail me now.
For me and the Lord, we gotta understand it.
We're on a mission from God. Lots of space in this mall.
Walking around every day playing games and taking score. Trying to make other people lose their mind. Well, be careful you don't lose yours. Yeah,
how are you going to raise $5,000 in 11 days without ripping off somebody?
Dance to the jailhouse rock. Dance to the jailhouse rock. Dance to the jailhouse rock. Dance to the jailhouse rock.
I remain celibate for you.
Hit it.
My heart's calculating, my true love will be waiting. If my estimations are correct, we should be very close to the Honorable Richard J. Daley Plaza. That's where they got that Picasso. Yep.
Two guys come in here, black suits, black hats, one carrying a briefcase?
Yeah, I just sent them down there.
Thank you.
John Belushi.
How much for your wife?
Dan Aykroyd.
After the gig, maybe we could, hang out together.
James Brown.
I heard the sound in my car.
Cab Calloway. Ray Charles.
You know depreciation, man.
Carrie Fisher.
I must now kill you and your brother.
Aretha Franklin,
You're living with me now, and you're not gonna go sliding around with your old white woman friends.
Henry Gibson,
He better pray the police get to him before we do.
and the Blues Brothers Band.
Let's go, boys.
The Blues Brothers.
Are you the police?
No, ma'am. We're musicians.
That was actually the easiest intro to write in 3 seasons. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's not much plot to this movie.
It's pretty simple.
It is pretty simple. It's like, get out of prison.
They're on a
earn
mission
money,
from God. We're getting the
on
band
a
back
mission
together.
from God. Yeah, it was like, oh, I can follow this really easily. Even though it is on my shame list, I guess I'll start with how I feel about it. It's really weird when no one asks me.
Hey, Michael. How do you feel about the Blues Brothers? What was your first impression?
I liked the Blues Brothers. I thought I had seen more of it than I had. I had seen the Aretha Franklin scene. That was it. And then clips from We're on a Mission from God. I feel like I've seen that clip. The very end, like when he has his line, like we've got 100 and something miles to Chicago.
106 miles to Chicago.
Let's be specific.
Half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hit it.
I've seen that clip. I feel like anytime someone does like a compilation of moments in movie history, you see that clip, and it usually, if it doesn't start off one of them, like one of those montages, it usually finishes with it.
Oh, I realized in watching this this time that whenever I am around my family or some of my Chicago friends, I slip into a slight Elwood Blues accent.
Well, I kept thinking throughout the movie, it's like I can see Nick doing all of these dance moves.
I love the way Elwood dances. I love with his just like high knee, like
yes.
Like I think that was like going back to a term that we coined a couple of episodes ago. That was my Thrill House moment of the movie, is when they're in the church and he realizes that this is how they're gonna make the money. And I don't register it as dancing at first, and he's like Elwood agrees with him, and then he starts high knee stepping, and then just goes
gyrating.
Is he about to run out of the church? What is he gonna do? And no, that's just how he's dancing.
And he does the exact same dance when they're at their final show at the end, down the little catwalk thing.
I like when he's just doing like the half jumping jack down the stage. It's like, I could do that dance. I'm also not used to seeing Dan Aykroyd so thin.
Right? Yeah.
So thin in this movie.
Never again.
He's kind of a fox in this movie.
He kind of is.
It's funny. You'd think he was the one doing $10 million worth of cocaine on the set of the film.
You would assume that he was the one coked out of his mind, and everyone. I got nothing against John Belushi at all, but for me, Dan Aykroyd was the star of this movie. He was the one I couldn't take my eyes off of.
Yeah.
He's doing a quarter of what John Belushi's doing, but he's doing more.
John Belushi did do some backflips there. I think it was not a stunt double, is what I heard.
The only reason I wasn't too sure is because they never showed his face when he was doing them. But if that was actually John Belushi doing backflips...
How do you show someone's face while they're doing a...
Well, because whenever he would land, they would do a cut then to his close-up. They wouldn't do it and then have him face the camera.
I believe he did not do the multiple ones, but he did do there was a single shot where he did a single backflip and then you saw his face into the camera.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Right.
Amanda, what did you think of the Blues Brothers?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I had never seen any part of it. The only idea I had of it was based on the songs I played in band, which never actually showed up in the film.
Yeah, she knew their version of Soul Man, and she kept waiting. Where's Soul Man? Where's Soul Man?
And then it never came, and started.
Why'd I have the bowl, Bart? Why'd I have the bowl? Everything can work into
Yep.
For me, what was surprising, because I knew that Aretha Franklin scene, which was done on a stage, and it had a very musical feel to it, because the scene kind of opened up, and you had someone playing saxophone on the desk and everything. So I kind of was expecting the entire film to have this classic Hollywood musical vibe, like kind of like West Side Story, where even when they're outside, it feels like it's on a stage. So I was like pleasantly surprised that they used so many real Chicago locations and it kind of had a grittier feel. And it was just such a wacky use of tones. Like sometimes it was very hard boiled and, crime cop story thing going on, and then it would have these crazy flights of fancy, and then these over-the-top comedy moments, and Carrie Fisher.
I didn't expect the comedy, like how silly it got. I did not expect. I enjoyed it. That's not what I imagined based on what I knew about the film.
When she pulled out the bazooka, I was like, okay, this tells me everything I need to know about this movie.
Right?
Or the amount of cop cars that they trashed in that final chase sequence.
Yeah.
World record at one time.
So at one time, not anymore?
No.
When I was perusing Wikipedia, they were like, the film was going over budget before it even began, because Dan Aykroyd took an extra 5 weeks to write the script. Is like, they were over budget before they even shot that cop car scene.
Yeah, it was like a $17 million budget, and it ended up somewhere at like $28 million, I think.
Wow.
The Blues Brothers is the reason that comedies now cost so much.
Right.
I think it still holds the record for the most expensive comedy. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Which is crazy. Like I thought, like it's not that it's a complicated movie, but there's a lot going on in it.
Oh yeah.
Well, so we got the initial impressions from those that it's on the shame list of. I would love to get Katie's explanation of why this is her favorite movie.
Well, it goes back a long way for me. Like I was talking to you guys earlier, my mom originally recorded this movie off of TV. I believe it was Milwaukee's Super 18 TV station that was showing it.
Oh, that just brought me back. Wow.
Yeah.
Super 18.
Super 18. Yep. And so my brother and I grew up watching this film, from the TV edited version, taped to VHS. So we knew, exactly where the commercial breaks were. If I thought really hard, I could probably even remember some of the commercials that were recorded with the movie.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So for a lot of years, that's how I watched it. So I think, I don't know, maybe I was in high school or something when I finally saw like an actual VHS copy, or it wasn't, I don't think, out on DVD by then. But yeah, it was like, whoa, I have to relearn this movie with all the swear words and, with some of the things that were cut out. So
they cut the Folgers commercial out.
Yeah, exactly. So for a long time, it was the recorded off TV, and then whatever VHS copy I had, and then eventually now I have like 2 steelbooks of this movie.
I almost bought one from Target the other day.
Yeah, there's 2 different steelbooks out. Yep, I have that one, and then there's another one with them like dancing on the cover or something. So it's the only movie that I feel like for my collection I need to have 2 or more. Like I will continue to purchase them.
That's Halloween for me.
Yeah, everybody's got that one. That and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I will take as many copies of those films as I can get. I don't care what format, Laserdisc, whatever.
Yeah, that's Lion King for Amanda. That's her movie.
Everybody's got one. So that's how I first started watching it. And it really, as a film, like, I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee. So seeing the images of Chicago, this, urban epicenter. Yeah, it was a lot. Yes. And that one shot of Milwaukee. There is just a lot of similarities, the way that Chicago is this industrial, kind of grimy city. Yeah. It looked a lot like the Milwaukee that I grew up in. And I could relate to just the entire like urban feel of this film really spoke to me as a kid. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand the level of why that was, but it really just did. And aside from that, the musical numbers were awesome. Like you guys are talking about the dancing. Well, my brother and I used to dance in front of the TV to this movie. Like every scene, particularly one of my most favorite scenes in the music shop with Ray Charles. Like we would do every dance move to that. We loved it. And this was also my brother's favorite movie growing up, and he passed away in 2011. We actually put the Blu-ray on the table next to his casket. I mean, it was that significant of a movie for our entire family. And my mom still really likes this film too, and I would say my dad probably likes it too. So as a family, this is a big important movie for us.
And I can definitely see why it's a movie that the more you see it can grow on you, because like I really enjoyed it my first time, and like I feel like it would mean more to me had I seen it when I was younger. Like there's that connection you have to movies when you see it. Pardon me, when you're younger. But it was like, I just had this feeling that like, oh, I want to watch the theatrical version. I want to see how it differs, and I just feel like the more I see it, the more it's just gonna connect with me.
Totally. That's how I feel. And every time I watch it, I feel happy. I feel giddy. It's like reminds me of my brother, but not in like that sad way where I'm depressed. It's just like takes me back immediately. I can't stop moving. I can't stop, saying the lines. I annoy the people who are watching the movie with me because I will say every line a half a second before it comes. So
do you sing the entire rendition of Rawhide?
I have. I probably don't do it every time, but
That was the most pleasant surprise for me watching this movie. I was not expecting him to go into the entire rendition of Rawhide. Done very well.
That was the scene that felt to me like most extended by the unrated extended version. That scene is cut way down in the regular version.
It's a shame. It's one of my favorite scenes.
It was a fun one, yeah.
Okay, so we've heard Katie's connection to it. Nick, you would not stop bugging me to be on this episode. Tell me why.
You mean other than the fact that I'm from Calumet City? Yeah, you've heard it.
Was there a reason besides the fact you're from Calumet City?
I loved this movie.
Are you really from Calumet City?
I lived there for several years.
So you're not from
you're from
I'm
Calumet
not from
City.
there. No, I am from Illinois. I was born in Waukegan, and I didn't move to Illinois until 7th grade.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I do have that. The Blues Brothers has a vibe, a quality that I have not seen in any other film. It's almost like a taste. It's so palpable, the essence that this movie puts out, and it captures the Chicagoland area in the late 70s, early 80s, in a way that no other film has even attempted to do. And so putting this on, like, I'm immediately transported back to my childhood, seeing those cars on the street, and these scenes that I passed by whenever we would go on a road trip, is really cool. The music has stuck with me. And one of Dan Aykroyd's intentions for creating the Blues Brothers SNL sketch was to try and like blues was dying from his perspective, and he did this just to like bring attention back to blues, and it brought me to blues music in a way that I probably never would have been had it not been for this movie. So yeah, and the cameos are fantastic.
I agree. Like that was, and that was my original connection to this film. Was introducing blues to an audience. Like that was the reason I saw it. Was in the bits and pieces I saw was in middle school. Our music teacher was doing a lesson on the blues, and he started off with that. Like he showed us the entire set of Aretha Franklin scene from John Lee Hooker playing Boom Boom all the way through the end of it. So like just to kind of like show a who's who. He would have showed the entire movie if we would have had more than like 45 minutes in a class.
Right. So one thing I'd like to do to kind of kick us off into the next section is I'd like to hear each person's favorite musical number and each person's favorite cameo. Because there's so many of both.
That's tough.
While we're thinking, I want to point out one thing that brought me a lot of joy. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with finger tattoos. And I always thought, oh, my name is terrible, so you can't get it tattooed on your fingers. And I love that Elwood has it just broken off into the other part of his hand. It doesn't have it even at all.
Yeah, didn't try and balance it.
To me, the way that detail, because John Landis has a theory when it comes to filmmaking, and especially of costumes. And maybe he thinks this because he's married to the costume designer on the film. And he said you should be able to know everything you need to know from a character by looking about how they're dressed and details on them. To me, Elwood's tattoo made me think that Jake got it done first. Elwood, who's the the younger brother, thought it was so cool he wanted to do it too, but his name was too long.
Right.
Totally. That's one of the details that was not lost on me as a kid either. Where I definitely noticed it, and I definitely noticed the unbalanced. So Jake and Elwood was like my frame of reference for finger tattoos, like going into life then. And so I pay attention to people's finger tattoos, and I'm like, why can't I read it? Maybe there's more on the other hand, or yeah.
So that was like one of my favorite little details, and like I knew it was coming because the Steelbook. There's a Steelbook release, and it's their hands. And it's the top one is Jake's hand, and the bottom one is both of Elwood's hands. And so I knew that was coming, and it's like I just love that little detail that he wanted. Like that's what keeps me that's what I wanted more from this movie. I wanted to know more about them.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't gonna get it, but like there's just so many questions about like. I did a little bit of reading about the film, and apparently their fake or their fabricated biography was that they are not actually they're not actual brothers, but they became blood brothers while in an orphanage by pricking their finger off of like a guitar string, and then they became like best friends and essentially each other's family. And I was like, oh, that's all really interesting information, but it's also kind of adds to the mystique of the film, not really knowing anything about them. They're just these two goofy dudes.
Yeah, I think on the other podcast that I do, one of our members likes to talk a lot about character development, and he seems to really enjoy films that really get into developing the characters and their backstory and learning all about them. And I actually like that the Blues Brothers are sort of mysterious. I feel like they are sort of the vehicle to showcase black music, and rhythm and soul, and the idea that they're kind of in these basic outfits behind the hat and sunglasses, they're not actually put in the spotlight. They are, but they aren't. I think
they're there to service the music, not to service themselves. They're not trying to get themselves over.
Right, but their characters are still interesting enough that we care what happens to them.
Yeah. I also appreciate that they're bulletproof.
Totally. And Elwood's like the best driver ever. That's so sexy. That makes him automatically the sexiest guy in the movie because he drives like a beast.
So look, if your date don't work out tonight for any reason, there's a motel up on the interstate. Maybe we could say, meet.
Well, and you'd never know it looking at his face, like or listening to him talk while he's doing it. When that mall chase sequence where they're
my god,
new Oldsmobiles are in early this year.
This movie seemed like it seemed like the least likely movie to have a car chase, and it had a couple of the best car chases. But
you want out of this parking lot?
Okay.
And then hard cut to the Toys R Us. But going back to your question, Nick.
Yes.
I guess I will try to answer. I don't know if it's my legitimate favorite musical number, but I still really love that Rawhide musical number. Just because I was not expecting Elwood's insanely deep voice, and then Jake just grabs the whip and it's
yeah.
Like,
his face through that though when he was like just straight faced.
I know, and they have no emotion when they're singing. They're just out there, just like you said. They're just kind of there to service the music.
Yeah.
I really liked that one. But I think like my favorite, like I guess cameo musical scene would probably be the Ray Charles bit.
That one was my favorite, and that was my favorite musical number, I think. I don't know, I just like that whole scene a lot. And they like Ray Charles a lot.
I like that Ray Charles put a gun on a child.
Right?
But then that little like mini soliloquy about like, oh, it's such a shame to see a good kid go bad.
Right.
And then this funny, throughout the entire scene, I was like, I don't know if they're playing that Ray Charles in this movie is blind or not. I couldn't tell.
Oh, really?
Until the very end when he was hanging the poster up.
Yep.
I was like, okay, his character is blind in the movie.
See, I got it the whole time.
Well,
like,
I knew Ray Charles was blind, but I didn't know if they were casting him to be blind.
But, like, I guess that's why I enjoyed that scene so much, and that's why it was so much fun, especially with the kid, because, like, the kid was trying to sneak in because there were other people, so he thought no one would hear him.
Well, exactly, and, like, I kept going back and forth, and I kind of, like, up until the end, it's like, I liked not knowing if his character was supposed to be blind or not.
It was such a great gag, the end bit, because it was fine on its own that he had this like superhuman, sense despite his blindness, where
he's Spider-Man.
He knew everything that was going on the whole time, and then that little addition of the poster bit was like the perfect way to cap that.
So, do you have a favorite cameo besides Ray Charles? I like John Lee Hooker being in the film too. I thought that was a nice touch.
I mean, I also really like the Aretha Franklin scene. Although him just leaving his wife and not the
guitarist.
No explanation or anything.
This band needs more.
Really?
Just because he's leaving work early, but it's like, oh no, he just literally just left his wife. He's in prison and everything, and she's just manning the store.
I swear to God, it wasn't my fault.
How about you, Katie? What was your some of your favorites?
God, it's like picking your favorite child.
Well, pick your favorite child.
I don't know if I can.
Nick does it every week.
Oh,
Equally as hard as Sophie's choice, I think. This is.
It's tough. It's tough. I guess I too have always enjoyed the music store Ray Charles scene because it was such a fun one to dance to as a kid in front of the TV. I don't know. Every single musical number in this movie is awesome. I really love the church. Scene.
James Brown.
Yeah, James Brown is amazing. As far as my favorite cameo, though, might be Frank Oz in the beginning, only because
he was in that movie.
I'm as a kid, right? I recognized Kermit's voice or not Kermit, Miss Piggy's voice or Grover's voice, in Frank Oz right away in the beginning, and I think my mom was like, "Oh yeah, you recognize that voice, right?" Because I watched Sesame Street religiously. Also another thing where it has that urban tie, Sesame Street taking place in New York City, so kind of that same thing. So Frank Oz was kind of a fun, when I realized that was the first time where I realized Muppets are actually people and these are the voices that they're using. So that one remains a favorite, and I kind of have had a love for Frank Oz since, because of his involvement in creating the Muppets, which has been another thing that has shaped my upbringing and my childhood and stuff.
I also love the Muppets, so I feel that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so and also Cab Calloway and Minnie the Moocher, all that stuff
great.
is.
And, I too
awesome.
when the curtain opens and he's just got the white suit on.
Yep.
And I wish I could remember the exact story. I wanted to listen to it again before I watched this, but if not to plug another podcast, but it's probably one of the best movie podcasts out there. Leonard Maltin has got his own podcast called Maltin on Movies, and he did an episode with John Landis when they were talking all about making this film. And John Landis said he just knew he wanted to get Cab Calloway in the movie as someone that he always loved and respected. And he said Cab Calloway was a crotchety old jerk.
Oh,
in the most lovable way possible. But at one point they wanted to, he's like, okay, we should rehearse Minnie the Moocher. And he's like, do you think I need to rehearse Minnie the Moocher? And he's just giving him through the entire production. And he said he'd keep going on about how he doesn't want to do the song. And it's like... But then he'd do it, and he'd go out there and do one of the best renditions of it.
Well, and originally, Cab Calloway he had released it like a disco version of it.
Yes, he did.
And
he wanted that version.
He wanted that version, and Landis obviously wanted the original version, and the recordings of the original version weren't very good, so he had to redo it sort of in the original version, do it again. And yeah, that was what probably made Cab Calloway the most crabby.
Yeah, because he wanted this new version because he wanted to pimp that record.
Yeah.
And John's like, no, we got to do the and John said he knew Cab Calloway for they were friends for a while after that, and he said he was pretty confident Cab Calloway was just giving him, but he's like, you put he in his mind the disco version was the moneymaker, and he had to put the moneymaker in the movie. I don't think anyone wants a disco version of Minnie the Moocher.
Nope. No, I don't think to this day I've ever even heard it.
I don't want to hear it.
Even
I'm gonna put it in the episode now just for that.
Even if they did, this is not the movie for the disco version.
No, it's really not. Especially too because they have that whole sequence in the sauna where they're like, "Oh, those clubs are disco places now." Best comedy beat in that moment though is when they get up and walk away, and the entire band in towels gets up and walks away with them.
That's apparently a reference to an album cover.
Is it?
Yeah,
I heard that too.
It's like an exact replication of the band sitting in towels in a sauna. I just read that in preparation for the episode, so I don't know which album it's a reference to.
That's still pretty great, though.
I could be. No, it can't be Beatles. It was something though. Darn it! I wish I could remember. I don't remember.
But no, I appreciate too that this what this film was trying to do for rhythm and blues music, where it was trying, because in the time when it came out, it wasn't that it wasn't popular. It just kind of
It was dying. It was dying.
It wasn't as popular, and so that they wanted to do this film that's a love letter to rhythm and blues without necessarily feeling like they're making fun of it. And because like nowadays, especially John Belushi's brother Jim, any movie he's in, he's always in a white guy blues band, Chicago blues band. Right. It's always really cringy. But like this film felt like it just had such a love for it, and it wasn't just a white guy dad rock jazz band. You know what I'm talking about. Anytime you see a sitcom with an overweight dude, he's always in some sort of jazz band, or sorry, blues band.
I too, it's a little redundant at this point, but like my favorite is the Ray Charles sequence. But as a kid, it was the Tab Calloway song, like that. Minnie the Moocher just.
He can still really move too. He's doing like the arm lean thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, Cab's still got it. Like I've seen old renditions of him doing the song. I've taken a couple blues classes when I was in college, so I've heard a lot of these songs. But it's like, oh, well, Cab Calloway still got it, which is great.
Yeah. My favorite, as much as I love the Paul Rubens cameo.
So subtle, so sudden.
I love Steven Spielberg's cameo.
Oh yeah.
That was one of my favorites too because it came out of nowhere.
I always feel like he never looks the way I expect him to look. I don't know what I expect, but whenever I see him, it's not that.
Actually, you know what my favorite cameo was in the entire movie? The gas building at downtown Milwaukee.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and First Wisconsin building it was called.
When that came up. When they were like turning onto the expressway, it's like, I swear that looks like the on-ramp to the home bridge, because I drive that way every time I go see my mom. And then as the scene kept progressing and me and Amanda had to go back, it's like, this is Milwaukee.
Yep, high-rise bridge. That was one of the first stories that my mom was so excited to tell us about when we were going to watch the movie that she recorded off of Super 18 for us. Oh, Milwaukee's in this movie, and
not as Milwaukee.
It's never as Milwaukee, and it makes me so upset.
And the high-rise bridge has since been demolished and rebuilt. And that was the first time they were doing the Marquette interchange, I believe.
It is kind of funny to think that like the Marquette interchange has been under construction since 1980.
Pretty much, and it still can't handle all the traffic.
So a couple other cameo notes that I have. One is you had mentioned recognizing Miss Piggy's voice, so it's amazing that Bill Murray's cameo is. Do you have a Miss Piggy?
Wait, was that Bill Murray? That wasn't Bill Murray, was it?
I'm pretty sure that was Bill Murray.
I don't
in the
think
Toys
so.
R Us.
I don't think it was Bill Murray, but they did. But that is a nod to Frank Oz in that part.
Yeah, that was not Bill Murray. I would have noticed if it was Bill Murray.
Okay, that could be. It's just strange that it wouldn't be him too with the SNL connection, but
yeah, it is weird that like you would have thought there'd be one of the Murrays in this movie somewhere.
Yeah. So I was on IMDb after watching this, and there are 2 uncredited roles that have to get mentioned. Mr. T is apparently in this film as Guy on the Street.
You sure it wasn't just some guy that looks like Mr. T? Just Guy on the Street.
And one of the dancers in the Shake Your Tail Feather sequence is James Avery. Uncle Phil / the Shredder.
Oh wow.
Really?
That's according to IMDb.
Huh.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that.
Just like anybody can edit IMDb and add things, right?
That's true. That's true. Fun fact: if you go to Vincent Price's IMDb and look under thanks, my film From the Darkness Theater's on there.
Hey! Wonder who put that there.
I did. It is thanked in the credits. It's not false.
Right.
I'm not lying. He's thanked right next to Brian De Palma. 2 names you didn't expect to see together, but there. Oh, I didn't take any notes for this movie, Nick. So I hope you did.
I took some notes.
Oh, what, tell us a little bit about your notes. I have a hard time taking notes first time seeing the movie. I try to, but then I get engrossed in the film.
Well, I had some notes about it being very much a black film, even though the 2 main stars were white, and how actually that affected the box office sales in the beginning, because there was like in the Deep South, they didn't want to show this movie at all. It was too black for them.
That bar scene was a little too on the nose for them.
Yeah, there was distributors that said, yeah, like, you know, even in LA, like, yeah, we'll show it in Compton, but, you know, we're not going to show it in Beverly Hills, or you know, it's too black. It's too black for the white population, which is probably something I really like about it. And the anti-establishment scenes and bits in this film none of them are ever directed at the black community at any point, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, the only real criminals in this movie are Elwood and Jake.
Well, and the police, you know, are seen as the you know, the man is kind of seen as the villain in a way, and sort of they're painted as kind of being bumbling idiots too. He broke my watch.
That entire, like, I love, like, when they keep cutting back to the car sliding and the guy's holding his hat down.
I just, like, they followed him into the mall? Why would they follow him into the mall?
Must suspend your belief at this point.
Even though the Blues Brothers are trying to, the reason why they're sent on this journey is to raise money for the church, the visuals that they use and the way they present that orphanage is really like borderline demonic.
Terrifying.
With the way that the doors automatically open, and that she, like, you know.
Yeah, her, like, retreating back into her office.
And then, like, it's just at the end of a creepy frickin' alley, too.
Yep. If you're not familiar with Catholicism, it's very dark. It's very accurate. That's another thing that spoke to me as a child. Probably the first time I saw this movie, I was attending Catholic school, so it was pretty right on the nose.
Well, that's why they wanted to rebrand it with Catholicism Wow.
What? Now, we all know how the majority and the media in this country view the Catholic Church. They think of us as a passé, archaic institution. People find the Bible obtuse, even hokey. Now, in an effort to disprove all that, the Church has appointed this year as a time of renewal, both of faith and of style. For example, the crucifix. While it has been a time-honored symbol of our faith, Holy Mother Church has decided to retire this highly recognizable yet wholly depressing image of our Lord crucified. Christ didn't come to earth to give us the willies. He came to help us out. He was a booster. And it's with that take on our Lord in mind that we've come up with a new, more inspiring sigil. So it is with great pleasure that I present you with the first of many revamps the Catholicism Wow campaign will unveil over the next year. I give you the Buddy Christ. Now, that's not the sanctioned term we're using for the symbol, just something we've been kicking around the office. But look at it. Doesn't it pop?
It was
Buddy Christ.
Buddy Christ.
With the Buddy Christ, where Christ is like,
Yeah, I remember that, okay.
Jesus didn't come down here to give everyone the
Mormon.
willies.
And then, like, when
Sorry,
the
I
doors
didn't
are just swinging open and closing on their own. Amanda's like,
I mean, that is really kind of, at least when I was going to Catholic school for the whole 2 years I went, nuns were very, you know, our Sister Mary Milo was the nun principal at the Catholic school that I went to on the south side of Milwaukee, and she was very much like the Penguin. You know, I can very much. She had a gliding quality.
And funny, like, my mom tells me my mom went to Catholic school. She went
My
to
mom
Saint,
too.
She went to St. Jonatita's.
Oh.
And she would always tell me stories about how she loved the nun. She's like, there was this one nun. She's like, she was so small and she wore green Converse.
That's amazing.
So more of a Sister Act nun than a Blues Brothers nun.
Salve, 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 Regina.
And you'd think they'd be like, come on, they could have thrown one singing nun scene in that movie. It was already 2.5 hours. What's another 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, and what churches are paying property taxes? That's my other question.
And this is funny because like back, I have to keep reminding myself this is 1980, and they were like, we need $5,000. I'm like, that's it? That's not too bad. That seems doable.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's 10, 15
keep
grand.
in mind, the orphanage probably doesn't make money.
Fair
It's an
enough.
orphanage. It's not like they're charging people to go to school there and stuff.
Nah, fair enough. She just spends her time just hitting kids.
I love the way she ended up getting the ruler, like, just kind of off of their heads.
And then when she breaks it and grabs the bigger one.
Yeah. That was a straight-up Highlander move.
It was. There can be only one. Can we have the Penguin versus the Kurgan? That's the new Highlander. Like, you know how that YouTube channel that does like the versus things, like they'll have what?
Epic rap battles of history.
Yeah, we should have the Penguin versus the Kurgan. No one would find it nearly as funny as this we did on the show.
References.
So the name Reverend Cleophas really stuck out to me this time, so I looked up what the meaning of Cleophas meant. Sight of glory. I found, given what happens in that church, I found that significant.
Huh. Yeah. I would have never thought to look into that name.
Yeah, me either.
This is Nick's literary background that I appreciate that he brings to the show.
Everything means something.
So what does it mean that they cast James Brown in that scene?
It means that they got a bad musical number out of it.
This reminds me of a story. When the high school I went to was Ronald Wilson Reagan College Preparatory High School. There's a longer title than that too. And they named it after Reagan because he had just died around that time. And they because the original name of the school was Town of Lake, so let's name it after someone important. James Brown died 2 weeks later. Had we waited, we could have been James Brown College Preparatory High School.
That would have been way cooler.
Somehow I doubt it.
Oh, but that would have been
Do
so
you
cool.
see the light?
What's funny though about going to Reagan, like when you came in, they had this big mural that was done by students. They did one of those things where they like they took a picture of Ronald Reagan and they broke it off into sections, and each student had to like do their square, and they put it together to make a picture of Reagan. They chose a picture of him in a cowboy hat, and I walked in and was like, why the f*** is John Wayne on the wall? Because they looked more like John Wayne.
Something else that needs to be said. There are some amazing mustaches in this film.
There really are.
I think 1980 was a good year for mustaches in general.
If I had a better mustache, I would just pull off the mustache. But then you'd see the second chin.
The Tom Selleck.
Mustaches are creepy to me though, in terms of like a
You
sexual
need to
attraction. Because my dad has had a mustache for 40 years.
That's fair. I think you need to have the right type of mustache. Like Burt Reynolds without a mustache looks weird, but Burt Reynolds with a mustache
But I feel like
makes the man.
I feel like having more makes it less weird.
That's fair.
Mustaches are very 1980s, 1970s, you know, the old porn stash reference. But yeah, I will always and forever see my dad in the face of a man with only a mustache. And therefore, that's a problem.
Yeah, that would be weird. Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. I feel like my dad had two looks growing up. He had... You see the right pictures of him. He's got his hair slick. He had black hair. He had slick black hair and a mustache, and he kind of looked like Antonio Banderas. And then there's other times he looked like me with just a full beard. There was no in between.
I didn't realize he had black hair. Where'd your hair color come from?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I'd say that's really one look, Michael, because you are the spitting image of Antonio Banderas.
I am. All right, Katie, you said you had some more notes. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about? Like I said, I didn't take many because it's hard for me to take notes when I'm engrossed in a film.
Makes sense. And it's really hard for me to take notes on a movie that I've seen 347 times.
Right.
Was this as good as the second 235th time?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we should totally talk about the car chases and the awesome driving and just in general the car pileups. Like, I have a love affair with car chases in movies.
Me too.
I might be the only female on the face of the earth that gives a shit about car chases in movies, but
no, you're not.
Oh, good. Because
that was my favorite thing of Fury Road. Is the whole thing was just a crazy car chase.
I still need to show you Bullet. It's got one of the best car chases I've ever seen.
And what was that other one with the girls?
Oh, Death Proof.
Yes.
That's
fantastic.
my favorite of the two Grindhouse films. I love Death Proof.
Mine too.
My car actually has a license plate on the front, a Death Proof license plate. That's a mouthful. You have to check it out. But yeah, I it's just from kid on, like I'm kind of a car nerd, a gearhead, kind of a car buff. So,
nerd.
Yes. So many times. I used to have an 84 Camaro, which at this time of year was both a blessing and a curse. You know, an empty parking lot for donuts was great. So, of course, we used to play Blues Brothers when I was like 17, and I used to drive my...
Were you Elwood or Jake?
I was usually always Elwood because he was driving, you know, and my brother was younger than me, so he was never driving and I was always driving. So yeah, we would try to recreate some of like the parking in front of the Shea Hall, like just a nice little whip around.
Such a good.
Yes. All of that stuff. I love it. I love that I feel like the kind of cars that you use, the driving, the chases, the crashes, all of that stuff puts a certain finesse on a film that really speaks to me as a car nerd. So
I agree. Like and especially too with like older cars where they're just like they're all made of metal and they just had a different sound when
cars were cars.
And like actually It's one of the reasons a previous episode, one of my Vinegar Syndrome episodes, it's one of the reasons I gave the movie Shot such a high review, because the movie is made for like $15,000 in 1974, so it's still not a lot of money, and it was filled with nothing but gunfights and car chases, and it was made by college students.
That's
like
amazing.
It adds a new level to a film, and like I said, they could have just had the mall chase, and it would have been like, this is great, but then they had the ending chase with all the cop cars and
Lower Wacker Drive.
My favorite lines in the movie is, I gotta pull over Elwood, or I gotta pull over Jake, and they just swerve off the road, all the cars
fly off of that embankment.
That was great.
Or like when the cops go bowling later on and like they're all just piling into each other, and then I love that they get out of the car and just start shooting.
Well, and the fact that the Bluesmobile blows a rod and still keeps going for however long, like, yes, this car is the best car
Jake
ever.
can insult this car all he wants, but like once he pulls up in that shitty cop car, I'm like, oh, I like this.
I loved that car in like a it's terrible kind of way.
Oh yeah, and then I had the ramming. What is it called? The ram in the front of the car. I'm not a car person.
The bumper? What?
Yeah, well, it had a bumper that went over
guard,
the grill.
like
the guard.
Oh
the
yeah,
guard,
brush guard.
And I too love to
cop
know when to
motor,
show
cop
off, too.
shocks, cop suspension, cop tires.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't like this car, and then they do that wicked jump and then
fix the cigarette lighter. Yeah, that scene too. Of course, growing up in Milwaukee, there's plenty of bridges that open up near downtown where, you know, every time a bridge opens, I just want to drive over it. I used to have a couple of Buicks, older ones. I had a 78 Park Avenue, which was our family car, my mom's car growing up. And then I got it, you know, when I got my license and she got a new car. So I'm, 16 years old driving around in a 78 Buick Park Avenue. We could have service dinner for 4 on the hood. You know, it was huge. And yeah, that was like the feeling that I got. I felt so cool driving this huge metal car. And then a couple years later got a 77 Buick LeSabre, which was similar, but it was like a 2-door. So it was a little bit cooler than the 4-door, grocery go-getter. And yeah, the Bluesmobile growing up was like the car. It looked like a piece of shit, but it was awesome and it performed like a beast. And up until a few years ago, like I started leasing like Korean cars, Kias, whatever, because they're like efficient for the gas mileage and stuff like that.
It's a fine automobile.
It's a fine automobile, but I was like this close to buying a retired cop car because I wanted a Bluesmobile. I still want to do that, like eventually, because you see people driving old cop cars around. They sell them. Like that's on my bucket list
You
to
gotta
do.
put a giant microphone on the top.
Yep.
or a giant speaker on the
Yeah,
top.
an air raid horn thing. Yeah,
Blues review.
Yep, I'm definitely planning on it.
I think there's something so like beautifully stick it to the man too that they like that whole element of the script where they're using the cops' old retired tools in order to evade them.
Yes.
It's very Blues Brothers-y.
And clearly the car is magical. I mean, it gets exactly to Daily Plaza and falls apart. Like, that's... Yeah, it's clearly
Other than the one
magic.
time it ran out of gas, it was a
Right.
reliable vehicle.
No, we're out of gas. You know how many times that's happened to me in life where I go to a gas station and they're like waiting to fill it up? I'm like, oh my God, I'm living the movie.
I can't wait till Twitty shows up so I can hit on her.
Yeah.
Kyle, you might appreciate this. I remember one time I used to drive an old shitty minivan. That was my dad's, and at one point it didn't have the fuel indicator was broken. I didn't.
So you just had to guess?
Yeah, I didn't have a speedometer
Oh,
anymore.
boy. Lots of guessing.
My mileage counter was because I used to figure it out by mileage. Like, okay, I can get this much to the gallon, yada yada yada. That was all broken, so it was like. I kind of felt like Blinken in Robin Hood Men in Tights. I guess I've got enough fuel. I guess I can get there. Well, me and Kyle were driving somewhere, and I ran out of gas. And only people who live in Milwaukee will know this, but I was at the Holt Avenue Park and Ride, and there's a speedway over. I want to say like probably a mile away. I coasted that entire way on no gas, and Kyle just afterwards goes, "I've never seen anyone coast that far before."
Oh my God, my entire childhood was like running out of gas and coasting a couple blocks.
I felt about that minivan the way that Elwood feels about the Bluesmobile. It's like this is my chariot.
Oh, I have a fun running out of gas story.
Tell it.
We were all, my whole family, well, and at this point it was me and I have two brothers, but it was just the one brother at this time and my two parents, and my parents had agreed to take us to Chuck E. Cheese. So it was like a big deal because we never got to go to Chuck E. Cheese. And on the way to Chuck E. Cheese, my dad's truck ran out of gas. So instead of going to Chuck E. Cheese, we walked home from where the truck ran out of gas.
Almost as fun.
That's so much more depressing.
It was bull.
One thing I want to talk about is I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about. I just kind of obsessed with this casting. I want to talk more about Carrie Fisher being in this movie.
Yes,
as just
her
mysterious.
character was so bizarre.
Especially too because like this movie came out right around the same time Empire Strikes Back was coming out, so this is the top of her like popularity.
Yep.
She doesn't have a real character name. She just shows up with these Wile E. Coyote style weapons and just tries to kill the Blues Brothers, and they keep surviving. Like it's. I don't know. I'm just kind of. She's the biggest badass in this movie.
When they were like, we gotta go to work. That one was probably my
It's
favorite.
9 o'clock. Time to go to work.
Like, oh, we gotta go to work. Like, there's not a whole lot to say about her character because it's not a very well developed character at all. I'm just love that they got Carrie Fisher at, like I said, the height of her popularity, essentially. Or maybe Return of the Jedi might be the height of her popularity because of that bikini she wore.
Could be.
But like, she's doing Star Wars while she's making this movie, and I just like. I
think it really adds to how her character works so well, even though on paper she shouldn't work at all in this, because like you said, they don't develop her at all. But I think it's just that added like antagonistic piece. They have everybody's against them, including, random old lovers that, were left
kind
at the
of
altar.
unfortunate. I feel like Carrie Fisher, more often than not, gets stuck with. She's either in cameo roles or when she does actually have a role, it's not super well developed. Like, as much as I love the movie The Burbs, she plays the wife in that movie. She's just the nagging wife through the entire film, but she's such a good actress. She brings new levels to these little parts.
Absolutely.
And it's almost a shame.
This is one of the rare cases where lack of development combined with Carrie Fisher's performance actually makes that role more compelling. Had they given her backstory... other than just what Jake explains, what they kind of explain to each other in that last interaction, it makes it so funny in this comedy context.
No, especially and they trickle it in very slowly. Like I love the scene where she's like going through the flamethrower like manual, and then you just briefly see Jake's picture in the background. And like Amanda pointed it out, and I was like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. It's very simplistic storytelling, and I sometimes feel like that works better than anything. You can over-explain yourself to death sometimes.
Yeah, I hate that about movies where they feel like they have to give us every little bit. Like, pay attention. If you pay attention to this movie and you're not lazy, you'll get it.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest gripes with some people's critique of films. Like, well, I didn't understand what was going on because one eye was in your phone and I'm not sure where the other one was. But back when, you had nothing else to do except watch the movie, you would be paying attention to these, subtle little things. And I guess maybe because I've seen the movie, 347, did I say, times?
That sounds about right.
That, maybe I pick up on all this. But I think it's also noteworthy to mention that the name of her salon is the Curl Up and Die.
Curl Up and Die.
Such a nice touch.
Yes.
There's actually a salon in a town close to me. No, Denton, Maryland, that has a salon named Curl Up and Die.
If I ever open a salon, it will be called Curl Up and Die.
I want to. Since we're talking about great names for businesses, once upon a time there used to be a butcher shop on Beecher called Beecher Meats.
Yes.
I don't think
the
they
reference
got it.
didn't stick for me as a kid either, but
right.
As an adult, it's hysterical.
Yes.
Well, it's just a place on Beecher where you don't. Oh, I see.
Someone could start a tool shop, Beecher Tool and Die.
Since we're talking about these little like subtle inclusions, one thing that I really enjoyed was when they're negotiating with Ray over the instruments, that Elwood just goes off to the side where there's a toaster, and he's just kind of he has a piece of bread on him, and he's just kind of like.
I love the way he closes it too. He's like.
He's coveted. There's all this music around him. All the gear nerds are checking out the amps and the guitars. And then there's Elwood like, this is the best toaster I've ever seen in my life.
He does like his dry white toast.
And especially because I can't believe
Elwood!
This is a character arc for him, but the first time we see him in his toast obsession, he's cooking it on a hanger. It's like, this is a huge step up for him. It's like, this is what it means to me.
Oh,
yes.
Someday.
That reminds me, talking about Elwood cooking the toast in his apartment, it reminds me of the first time I actually visited Chicago, like legit went there. And it was probably way later than it should have been in my life that I got to Chicago, to the city proper. But I went with my ex and we stayed at a hotel in the South Loop, I believe, called the Silversmith Hotel on Jewelers Row. And the room that we had was level with the L train. So nice. The train was going by the window and I'm like, it goes by so much you hardly ever notice it. This trip was so Blues Brothers. We actually went to see a show at the House of Blues. That was the whole reason we were down there. So, I mean, aside from having a Dodge Monaco, I mean, we walked everywhere, but it was like it brought the movie to life for me because I hadn't really visited Chicago, but we got a chance to walk the streets of Chicago. The whole entire trip, like we got there on a Friday afternoon and left on Sunday. We did not take a car. We did not take a train, except for from Milwaukee to Union Station. We took that train, the Amtrak, but we walked everywhere. And it was February. It was a lot like it is now. And we walked through the snowy streets of Chicago. Yeah, it was a really cool, intimate way to get to know the city and to sort of experience. And, we walked Lower Wacker Drive under the tracks, like all of that stuff. It brought the movie to another level. So now when I watch it, I have some frame of reference having actually been in some of these places in the city.
Speaking of the House of Blues, I actually saw Jim Belushi and Dan Aykroyd perform as the Blues Brothers at the Chicago House of Blues.
How cool is that?
That was a cool show.
That would have been awesome. We were there to see Meshuggah, so it wasn't quite the same. But,
That's got to be a really similar show.
Very much.
So I'm curious, since we got two pretty diehard Blues Brothers fans here, have either of you seen Blues Brothers 2000? And what's the story
Nope.
with this movie?
Nope.
Okay.
Not interested.
Same.
I saw that. Who's the husband from Roseanne? Why can't I think of his name at the moment?
John
Goodman. I saw John
yeah.
Goodman was in it. I was like, well, that's interesting.
And Macaulay Culkin, let us not forget.
Oh, wow. Now I got to run out and see it.
Yeah. No, it's never interested me. I've never, it's kind of like
I didn't know if it was a remake, if it was a sequel.
I'm not exactly sure, but it's like when somebody tries to do something with your favorite thing, I don't know. There's no way that anyone could ever do it justice, I don't think. I mean, maybe I've been proven wrong before. I thought the new Suspiria film, in comparison to the original, which I love, was better than I expected. But from the trailers and the clips and the things I've seen of the Blues Brothers 2000 or whatever, it wasn't...
Two
didn't
things
hold my
that
interest.
intrigued me at least about it was that John Landis directed it again.
Sure.
And then Dan Aykroyd wrote it again, but it was like what's the point? Or like, if you're gonna do a sequel, why didn't you do it at least a little bit closer to when the first one came out?
Yeah, and I just feel like the storyline, it's so wrapped up so well, like it doesn't need a sequel. It doesn't, and maybe if it was to do the same, have the same purpose of like bringing some of these big names out, musically again or something, I guess I could see the purpose of that. But overall, I thought it's a really great movie just contained within itself, and it's not broke, don't fix it.
I feel like the only thing I'd want to see out of another Blues Brothers film, and not necessarily saying we need this, but the only thing I'd want is like a prequel.
Perhaps.
I'd rather see them getting together and learning music than them just like, remember that time that we saved the orphanage? Let's do it again.
Yeah, right. Some kind of an origin
They're building
story.
a third Death Star that we have to blow up now.
Yeah, I think a Jake and Elwood origin story would be cool, to see, how they got into blues and because the way I take it is, they're growing up in an orphanage in a black neighborhood is probably how come they're so appreciative of this culture.
Yeah, with Cab Calloway's character, like instilling all of that in them in the boiler room.
Right.
Of the...
That sounds dirty when you put it that way.
Cab Calloway is a nice, decent man.
Boy, you can't talk to nuns that way.
Amanda, was there any other thoughts you had about the film, especially coming from music? Like I said, you knew some of the music.
Yeah, I mean,
the one song you wanted to hear wasn't in there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they were some of my favorite songs to play in band class in high school.
Such a rich horn section.
Yeah, and
What did you play?
I played saxophone.
Oh, I played trombone.
Okay.
So I like Tommy Gunn. That was.
I loved anything jazz and blues. Like jazz band was my favorite, like section of the day. So I was kind of sad that some of those songs that I was looking forward to weren't in it. But it was a lot of fun. Like it wasn't what I expected. Like I didn't expect it to be so silly.
I'm gonna have to go and buy you a copy of Briefcase full of blues.
Yes, I was just gonna say there's some great ones like Rubber Biscuit. That's a good one.
That was the album they had out. It came out before the movie, I believe.
Yeah,
it did.
Oh, okay.
And it went like platinum or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do have Briefcase full of blues.
Yeah. Well, it's just like Dewey Cox.
Yeah.
Is amazing.
Yeah, the Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story is some of the best songs that I've heard about.
It's
pretty much singing about someone's.
It's one of my favorite albums, and it's not even real, but it is real.
It's real to me, damn it.
And you never paid for drugs. Not once. You slept with my wife. You slept with me too, and I've had confused feelings about that for 10 years now. And you never once paid for drugs. Not once.
You're on your own, Dewey Cox. We're leaving.
Well, I guess this is the end of a chapter in your life, Dewey Cox.
And you never once paid for drugs.
Not once. I remember one time out of nowhere, Amanda just texted me because like I didn't realize she was even watching the movie. She's like, "Oh, so I can cheat, but you can just drink up all the milk." And I was like, I love that she's just texting me random lines from Dewey Cox.
Okay, one other thing I'd like to discuss. So this movie has a very strange inclusion of Illinois Nazis.
Yes.
Illinois Nazis.
I hate Illinois Nazis.
I think one of the most interesting things about their inclusion, and apparently it is a direct reference to a court case that was happening like as
Yes.
the script was being written.
Okay, that makes more sense. It seems very random until now.
They reference how those socialists won their court case.
Idiots won their court case, now they're marching. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was something to do with like Skokie, Illinois, actually. I don't remember the exact reference, but yeah, it is based on true events.
Yeah. What I find most fascinating about it is that the Nazis in the film are like the third tier antagonists. Like usually Nazis, okay, they're going to be the ones that are the most like, nope, it's like the cops and then Carrie Fisher and all of these other people.
The rednecks, don't forget the rednecks.
The rednecks.
Good old boys.
And
Good
then,
old boys, yeah.
And then there's like, oh yeah, and also the Nazis.
Real quick, mentioning the good old boys, that was one of like the car crashes I cringed at most when that truck with the like little cab
Oh my
got
God.
taken out. I was like, there's 3 guys up there. And I know like when they probably did the crash, they weren't up there, but all I could think was like, those guys are dead. They're not walking away from this.
This is not okay.
There's a lot of scenes in this movie where people should be dead and they crawl out of piles of bricks and things. So,
Yeah.
you know, they were on a mission from God.
They did not show the Nazis get out of the giant hole in the street when they were dropped.
This is true.
It was just an overpass on a
That was such a disconnect for me. It's like so.
But you could see
especially
it
'cause
falling past the skyrise.
It's like I knew that was in Milwaukee, and I knew how tall that was, and it's
Yeah.
like, and then they show them falling past
For
some of
2
the-
miles.
Into Chicago. and I
into
was
Chicago,
like,
and I was
what?
like, it was like, okay, so if you're trying to tell me that this is above all those buildings, that is not that tall.
Did you know they actually did drop a Pinto for like
Yes.
1,000 feet
Yep.
to do that?
From a crane.
They had to
yeah.
register it with like the FAA in case it like, I don't know, grew wings
To
and flew away.
It is a Pinto, so.
And then cut to the Nazi station wagon being dropped over the lower Wacker area, a vacant lot. And we had a target zone of 50 by 50 feet. And
I remember there was a specific thing where we wanted to drop the Pinto belonging to the Illinois Nazis past the sky. You wanted to see it fall past the skyline. And so how we were going to do that was actually drop the Pinto from a helicopter. We had to have the Ford Pinto certified by the FAA. They actually wanted to know about its unairworthiness because they were afraid it might have, be like an airfoil and somehow in the middle of the drop go sailing off over Lakeshore Drive. So we had to do drop tests where we dropped the Pinto from the helicopter, had to hit a specific place. We were using the area where they store salt that gets spread during the snowstorms of the winter, that has nothing on it during the summer and is away from a populated area, although it is within the city. And so we proved to the FAA in the city that we could hit a mark, and we dropped this Pinto and it fell right on the X where we wanted it and flattened it. It was about this high when we got done with it. But that's how we were able to do that shot.
I've always loved you.
This is why I love cinema, is for weird little factoids about this, and that's why we do this show.
Yep.
Well, and I think what else is really cool on that same point is like you wouldn't see that today. That would just be CGI. Nobody's
Right.
dropping cars in downtown Chicago
it's
anymore.
Like it's crazy. Like the Fast and the Furious movies are all about car crashes. There's very few cars in those movies.
Sure.
I love how you just, back in my day, dropping cars from cranes in downtown Chicago.
Back in my day, we really dropped cars, and we were thankful for it.
I really should have been born in the 50s, I think, and lived through like the 70s as a young adult, because I love, like, the era of movies I love the most is probably like 75 to 89. Like all of the movies that I love came from those eras. Anything after that, it's like, yeah. I mean, there's some.
There's also
but
a chance you might not have been into movies. I remember saying to my dad,
is
my
true.
dad was born in 1953, and I would ask him, I was like, oh, Dad, have you seen this movie or this movie? That, all things that came out during his lifespan. He's like, no. And I was like, well, why not? And he was like, I was too busy being cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. all.
He was
Thanks,
also-
Dad.
Oh, Dad, what happened?
He was also born in a one-room shack in a mountain. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like he
yeah,
grew up
he-
like in the city.
Yeah, he made his own skateboard out of a plank of wood.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. I don't feel like that's like a normal example of a.
He's lucky to have survived all of those falling cars.
I have a feeling when he said I was too busy being cool, he really meant to say I was too busy getting laid, but realized he was telling his son.
Yeah. And some days the
Yeah, he did a lot of speed.
someday the shitty movies that are coming out now will be the cooler older movies that
totally.
our kids
So
will be
fucking
like
weird
talking
that-
about. So
When you hear some of the I have to do the math, 20 to 25-year-olds talking about how like their favorite Star Wars films are episode 1, 2, and 3.
Oh yeah. Somebody's triggered. Hold on.
Right?
Do you know
right?
how old I am? I'm insulted.
How old are you?
26.
Okay, so you're out of the 20 to 25
Barely. I
range.
just turned 26.
Oh, I was watching Wayne's World the other day at work, and one of the high schoolers came and they're like, "This movie's old." I'm like, "Yo, it came out in the '90s."
No, that was like 5, 6, 20. Okay.
Like when I hear old movies, I'm like, "Oh, Buster Keaton, that's an old movie."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I have that interaction all the time though with the high schoolers that work for me. Is that they'll say
You
things.
just fire them for this.
They'll say things, and I'm like, no, you were born in 2000. Like you can't fucking talk. Get out of here.
Oh, I just felt like that scene in the
2000.
Santa Claus where he just ages in one shot.
Yeah.
No, when I realized I could hire kids born in the year 2000 was when that happened to me.
Yeah, what is the sign say now for buying cigarettes? Like if
I
you
know.
were born before this date and
2045.
yeah, like, what?
I graduated high school in 2000, just as a...
That's kids today, they don't understand.
Damn kids.
Get off my lawn.
I could say that now.
You actually have a
People to get
lawn.
off.
So there's one more, or actually a couple more, but one thing that I want to mention, primarily because it ties into Ghostbusters, which we've been talking
we
about
still
recently.
haven't done that episode.
with the new...
I stopped watching it because we weren't going to do the episode. I was like, I'm not finishing this until we do
Right.
the episode.
So Dan Aykroyd worked on both the script for Blues Brothers and Ghostbusters. Used
and John
a
Landis
line-
had to really fix that script.
Yeah, it was like 400 pages long.
Yeah,
his
they
first
wrapped it
draft.
in in a phone book cover because it was so big.
I just think of that scene, that meme that's going around from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with him like freaking out with all like the pins and pages behind him and everything. I imagine that was the script for the Blues
Right.
Brothers.
So one of the lines in the Blues Brothers is who are you gonna call? When he walks
Yep.
into the phone booth right before Carrie Fisher blows it like 500 feet up into the air, and then it comes crashing down, and they very easily survive.
Like,
but clearly a line that got reused and became very iconic.
I've never seen all of the Ghostbusters, and I still can't hear who you gonna call
Without
and not
thinking.
go there.
It's in our lexicon now at
Yeah.
this point.
It is a pop culture reference officially.
Yeah. I feel like we're starting to wind down. Was there anything else anyone wanted to say about the Blues Brothers? We've kind of gone on some tangents, but it's been fun.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's kind of in the spirit of the film, I think.
Yeah, there's not a point A to point B in this. Like, think about it. If this movie could have easily been 12 minutes long, if the nun would have just taken their dirty money,
right?
Or realize that churches don't pay property taxes.
Oh, this is just a paperwork mistake.
Exactly.
Whoops.
Roll credits. There are a few more things I'd like to mention.
Okay.
One is I loved Elwood's like bad-o tricks. And I actually kind of
Oh yeah, with the glue, strong stuff.
Was that what he stole from the factory at the beginning of the film? I thought that was Cheese Whiz at first, but then like they never
No, that
explained
was-
it again, so I figured it was glue.
It was, and I actually all the sequences of him at work that's not in the theatrical version.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Well,
So
good,
and
that didn't really work for me.
yeah, I actually preferred that Elwood just had this magical like Mary Poppins bag that he pulled out whatever was needed at that
I did
time.
appreciate seeing him not in sunglasses for one scene. But
I really thought that was Cheese Whiz up until just now that you mentioned
yeah, where
it.
it's probably glue.
Another funny story about the cheese was so when my brother and I were kids, we when our parents moved to the suburbs, they moved close to a pizza restaurant, which my brother would later go on to work at. But before this, we were out on our bikes, back in the day when kids used to ride their bikes outside, and we stumbled on the pizza restaurant, and somebody left the door unlocked. So we got in and basically had access to the soda fountain, and we're like drinking soda and like hanging out, and somehow we were playing the Blues Brothers, and we kept reenacting this. I think there was a can of Cheese Whiz. I think that's why. And, it was, did you get me my Cheese Whiz, boy? And we were tossing the can of Cheese Whiz around. And then, of course, the owner showed up, and we had to rush out and get on our bikes and take off. But yeah, so that scene always makes me laugh because I think about the time we unintentionally broke into the pizza restaurant.
Why is there a can of Cheese Whiz in a pizza restaurant? That's a terrible pizza.
Right. Yeah.
Not sure.
And that's how she ended up in Joliet. Another thing is when they get done with their first gig and the band is like starting to almost defect, and they're like, all right, we'll see him out for one more show. It actually like reminded me of indie filmmaking a lot. Is these two guys trying to keep a bunch of people together to create art and hopefully make money and do something that they all believe in. And you're kind of like getting your way through it all. Like I definitely like had flashbacks in that moment of every single set I've ever been on. That moment of, oh God, they're all gonna leave.
And actually, there was a moment too, like in that same scene where, like, your boys drank $300, and we did a.
We just figured.
We shot a scene in From the Darkness Theater at a bar, and it's like, oh, we just need a couple drinks for the table, and the bartender who was there just poured us a couple random drinks, and then while we were packing up, he's like, so about those drinks, I'm like. You gave them to me, and eventually, like I paid them, but it was.
Did you go write him out a check on the glove compartment?
That's where I signed the checks.
And I was like, "You gonna charge me?" Like, it was like $12 or something, but it's bands should drink on the house.
Well, and in show business, they usually at least get some drink tickets. At least in my experience.
Not all of it, like $300 is a lot, but some of it should be free.
Yeah, no, usually like when I put shows together, usually the bar will comp like some drink tickets for the bands and the performers, and
2 drinks per person I think is fair.
Yeah, that's about what it is, and it's usually like Old Milwaukee on tap or some garbage, but it's something.
Yeah.
Where's the new Milwaukee? That was a dumb joke. Why did any of you laugh at that?
Because it's the same kind of jokes that I tell.
Because you're in charge here.
But no, ultimately, like I really enjoyed the movie, and I honestly feel like I said before, the more I watch it, the more I'm gonna gravitate towards it.
Wait till you get to 347 times. It's gonna be your favorite movie ever.
I want to see the theatrical cut and just.
I almost bought the other day when we were at Best Buy. The Steelbook is like $9.
Oh dang!
And
you can have 2.
Yeah, I don't even own the movie.
Copies. Oh well.
I watched it off Amazon Prime.
All right.
That's the reason we picked this movie, because you wanted to be on it, and it was free for Nick to watch.
Well, you could have borrowed one of my copies too. I have several.
I used to have the VHS. Actually, my parents probably have it now. They ended up inheriting a bunch of my VHS cassettes when I had.
You can say it. They stole it from you. That's fine.
Mom, Dad, give me my VHS cassette.
I'm gonna send them that clip.
If you're listening to my broadcast.
I hope they do. I hope
they
listen.
No. All of a sudden, it shows up in the mail with a sticky note that says "sorry."
My mom
we
is
didn't
still
realize you wanted it back.
Yeah.
My mom's still confused what a podcast is. And she's been on an episode.
You're doing what now?
Is that like a fishing thing?
Yes, Mom. It's a fishing
You know what
thing.
wouldn't surprise me though, if she actually listens and she just doesn't want to tell you that she listens, because she figured out Facebook pretty quick.
Yeah. And for a woman who's never been on YouTube, she figured out YouTube really fast too.
Yep, and
she figured out
and when you could
emojis.
react to Facebook posts, she figured that out before we even realized it was a thing.
You get a woman a Chromebook and she just figures it all out.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she actually listens and just doesn't tell you.
Hi, Mom.
She's waiting for you to talk.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
And then she's gonna be like, "Hey,
Michael, honey, have you subscribed to my YouTube channel yet?
Cooking with Mary."
But she can't figure out how to check her notifications on Facebook. She can't. That's the part that's too much.
My mom just leaves them. Well, I don't care. Just leave them
We'll
alone.
reply to her, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't see it," because she waits for things to come across on her timeline.
Yep. My mom's the same way. And I'm like, Mom, you know you have 9 messages in your inbox? She doesn't care.
Michael, honey, I've started a mukbang. You can listen to me eat food now. I don't know why I decided that your mom was Jewish. You never call. Are you trying to break your mother's heart?
Oh my god. Oh. This has definitely been one of the episodes I've laughed the most on.
If she's listening, we love her.
I love you, Mom, if you're listening. We're looking forward to coming over and watching the Oscars with you. And she's going to make some ham.
Ooh, sounds like a very motherly thing to do.
And before that, we're going to watch Hell's Kitchen and Survivor with her.
Oh, I'm getting overclamped.
Oh, I think I'm out of content at this point.
Yeah.
Well, all my notes were on my phone, and my phone has officially died.
No more notes.
I think the only thing I didn't say that was in my notes is that, oh no, I think I did say it, that the Bluesmobile was a Dodge Monaco with a 440. But that's all.
It's cop motor.
Cop shocks.
The only other big thing that I have is on this watching, I actually was really impressed with the cinematography in a way that I haven't been before. There were some beautiful shots in this film.
There really was. Like, I love that. It's right at the beginning, but I love that shot of the prison doors opening, and we just
that
we got Elwood in the car in
light.
the foreground. He's in the background, kind of looking alienish because the way he's out of focus. And so
Yeah.
Me and Amanda have talked a lot about. I talk a lot about on this show, but I just love minimalist cinematography. Don't cut more than you have to, and like that entire scene of them going to hug each other is all done until they cut to like the titles, which is pretty cool. It's all just done in that one shot. Like you don't need to move around a whole lot, or any of the scenes with them in the car. Like for the most part, they'll have a camera on the hood, and it'll be shooting them in a 2-shot. But then occasionally they'll cut in for a close up, but. Cut for time, but
yeah.
Why move the camera if you don't need to?
Two other ones that really stuck out for me was the shot of Ray Charles as he was playing, where you can see his hands and the keys reflected in his glasses.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a great shot. Yeah.
And then the stuff of Elwood after Jake falls asleep their first night. Of him sitting in the window as the L train goes by. Mm-hmm. And they actually take a little bit of time to let him just sit there with his toast, contemplative.
I knew what you're getting at.
I was really moved by that.
Yeah, I agree.
I've never really looked at the film in an artistic light before, just because it's always been such a staple in my repertoire that, to actually think about how some of these scenes were shot. And I try to do that now when I watch films, especially to discuss them on a podcast. I feel like I should be looking at them as more than just, how I can reference them to my personal life. But there was a lot that I thought was really cleverly done. And I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't know how hard or easy it is to do any of it. But I just know what pleases my eye and what I like to look at. And this entire film is a really cool movie to look at, I think. And just the way that they tell the story without using words a lot, with a lot of those neat shots and setting the mood. And I especially like the opening of the industrial Chicago. It's not the glamorous skyline of Chicago that we're so used to seeing in most films. And I've actually heard a comparison. This movie was compared to Ferris Bueller, which was only made 6 years later, and how Ferris Bueller is really more of a shot from like a white middle upper class perspective versus
John Hughes
versus the, you know, kind of the industrial urban feel that the Blues Brothers has, and it's the same city. And now I think Chicago has been so gentrified that we've lost a lot of that urban
It's the
feel.
same thing of New York. Like you look at let's use the movie Annie Hall as an example. Annie Hall, so made by Woody Allen, shot in New York from an upper. Well, I guess technically he was like his family was lower middle class, but you know, for all intents and purposes, a middle class Jewish white guy. And then you look at the movie Maniac, which is shot like I think the same year, and that shows a completely different side of New York.
Yep.
or Highlander.
Or Highlander. Let us not forget.
It always comes back to Highlander.
Because there can be only one, Nick.
And I feel like the grimier urban cuts, like that's what speaks to me. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm from Milwaukee. I feel like this is sort of a grimy city, especially in comparison to other major cities. Like even like comparing Milwaukee to Madison. I have a friend that lives in Madison, and she said the biggest difference is how clean Madison is compared to Milwaukee. But I don't know, that grimy, old, yeasty smelling Milwaukee is what I know and love.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to point out that the Blues Brothers, you know, it shows that dirty, grimy industrial, but it is a love letter to that. It's not like, hey, look at how dingy Chicago is. It's telling, like, saying how beautiful all of that is, and like, and that's what they're fighting for and living in. And
I feel like a lot of that probably came from, I don't know, because I believe both Belushi and Aykroyd are from Chicago. I believe, because I think they both came from Groundlings.
Yeah.
John Landis was born and raised in L.A., but so I feel like a lot of that love letter to the griminess of the city comes from those two.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when we're coming down Maxwell Street, you know, to the soul food diner, and is that John Lee Hooker out there playing, and just the feel of the streets and everybody.
I wrote that song back in 1968. You did not.
That was my favorite addition in the extended cut. Because in the theatrical version, he just finishes a song and we go inside the diner. But that fight that we see just before and that it extends after they leave, of that fight over who wrote Boom Boom.
No, this was definitely a pleasant surprise for me. Like I really enjoyed watching Highlander this season, but like this is a film I feel like I'm realistically I'm more inclined to go back to. Nothing against Highlander. I thought Highlander was great, but it's not like I need to watch Highlander.
There's a reason this is my favorite movie of all time.
It's got a lot of replay value.
Yeah,
tons.
It gets funnier every time, and the music is clearly timeless, and it's amazing. All right.
I think that's it. So I'll use this as a moment for Katie to promote some of her she's got going on.
Well, I've got lots of to promote, but actually right now is a pretty quiet time for me, which is nice. But I am Katie Kadaver. That's Kadaver with a K. So you can find me on all the social medias. I think Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search for Katie Kadaver. And as was mentioned, I'm also the makeup artist for the horror punk band Ratbat Spider from Milwaukee. And they are on Bandcamp and Reverb Nation and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the places. So you can check them out. It's Ratbat Spider, all one word. If you're familiar with Angry Red Planet, the Ratbat Spider, there's a reference there. For some of you old movie buffs. I am also a performer and producer with Grindhouse Tees Burlesque Productions. We are currently just on Facebook right now, but we are putting together a big show that will be coming up on June 1st. It's going to be an Art and Oddities fair. So we're going to have some artist vendors, some bands, some performers, still lining up our entertainment stuff for that, but stay tuned. I'm also a Tromette with Trauma Entertainment, and you guys should know how to find Trauma at trauma.com. But if you don't, they're also on YouTube, and there's a ton of Trauma films you can watch for free on YouTube. And let's see, what else do I do? Oh, I'm also on a weekly podcast that's currently on YouTube, and we're working on getting it onto some other platforms as well. It's called Inside Movies Galore, where we talk about movies. So check that out. Yeah, so for right now, things are kind of quiet for me. I will be at Horror Hound in Cincinnati next month in March, and I will also be at C2E2 in Chicago. I will be with Trauma for both of those. So come and see me. I cosplay and I do fun things at the conventions and that kind of stuff. And then in June, I'll be with Grindhouse Tees, and then Rat Bat Spider's got some shows coming up too in March. So there's lots of places you can find me.
Busy.
Super busy.
Amanda, anything for you?
I'm just on Instagram with the dogs. Doggenstein.
Give us the names.
Doggenstein.
Oh yeah, the promo code's Doggenstein20.
Yeah.
That's how about you? What's yours?
Amanda R. Viers, which
you go.
Nothing gets posted on.
Everything goes to the dogs pages. And then I'm at on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, you can find me at Michael_Viers. You can find the podcast at Shameless Picture Show, all one word. Nick, yourself?
I'm on Instagram at a word worth 1,000 pics. That's the number 1,000, not the word. And I'm on Facebook, Nicholas Richards, something.
And as always, you can find the show anywhere. We are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Play Music, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Libsyn, SoundCloud, everything. But I also want to give one last shout out, Kyle. Since you came here all the way here just to record us, you want to take one of the mics and tell us a little bit about your Dino doc you've been working on?
Yeah, thank you,
I want you to
Kyle.
promote yourself a little bit.
Yeah. I'm working on a documentary about the commercial trade of dinosaur fossils and the impact that has on scientific research. You can check it out at thenewextinction.com if you want more information. And you can find me on Instagram at thecarp14.
Yeah, I wanted to give Kyle a shout out because he came all the way here. He's recorded some of our episodes when we have multiple people, and he also records the wrestling podcast, Cigars and Conversations. So he's a busy guy. But, I think that's it, guys. So I don't have an ending to this. Oh yeah, we do have an ending.
Yeah, you do.
I constantly
Yeah, you
forget
do.
about it. It's one that Kyle came up with. Because if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. Watch movies.